you. Gina, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Gray?
Present.
Trustee Caprio?
Present.
Trustee Rogers?
Present.
Trustee Sweet?
Present.
Trustee Nancy-Troike? Trustee Burien?
Present.
Mayor Yukich?
Present. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Tonight we have recognitions for two groups. Well, one group, two groups. First one is going to be for the hardest working man in Homer, Glen. Tonight we have a special guest. I would like to introduce Representative Jim Durkin. Representative Durkin is here tonight to recognize the hardest working man in Homer, Glen, Mr. John Leroy.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and ladies and gentlemen of the Village Board and residents who are here tonight. My name is Jim Durkin. I am the state representative for this area, and I've spent a lot of time in this region over the past few months. But in a really kind of a nasty campaign season, you look for good things. And I periodically will read the newspaper, and instead of reading about politics, there was a particular story that caught my attention that appeared in the Daily Southtown on January 30th. It's titled "The Hardest Working Man in Homer Glen is Now a Social Media Phenomenon" by Donna Vickroy. It was on January 30th, and it starts on a cold, rainy Sunday afternoon. John Fleming, a regular customer at the Homer Glen Jewel, turned cart collector John Leroy into a Facebook sensation. Fleming, who stops at the supermarket several times a week and often chats with the 55-year-old employee, said on January 21st, as Leroy helped him load groceries into his car, he asked if he could take the dedicated worker's picture and put it on Facebook. At first, Leroy said no, but a few minutes later, he posed with a big smile. John does great work. He's so friendly and so helpful, Fleming said. He drops whatever he's doing to help you. So when Fleming got home that day, he posted Leroy's photo on Facebook's Homer Glen Village Square community page with the headline, "Hardest Working Man in Homer Glen." That's a story that I said, it caught my eye, and you know what? At a time in this world where you read a lot of bad things, you hear a lot of bad stuff, I was really happy to read a story about a good guy. Somebody that is a good person. And I grew up in a generation where, it was always that expression that good guys finish last. But no, good guys finish first. And I want to make sure that people know that tonight, that John Leroy is a good guy and he finishes first. I have the opportunity in my position to recognize many people in the district and also through the state for accomplishments they've made, whether it's something that they've achieved through education or through employment, and also recognize people for great events. And I decided, based on what I felt was important and something that we should recognize, as a man who is labeled the hardest working man in Homer Glen, but a person who goes to work every day and puts a smile on his face, and also, more importantly, puts a smile on so many people, on the faces of so many people in this region. So with that, I was honored to prepare and present a formal resolution from the Illinois House of Representatives honoring John Leroy. And if you could give me just a moment. This is House Resolution number 854, which I offered. And it states, whereas the members of the Illinois House of Representatives would like to recognize John Leroy for his dedicated service to the Homer Glen Jewel Store and its customers, and whereas John Leroy understands customer service, he makes each shopper feel like the most important customer inside the store. He greets everyone with a smile and a hello. He disinfects the shopping carts, very important, great, that's really good, and has them waiting, particularly this flu season, and has them waiting at the store entrance. He likes to offer carry-out service and to load customers' groceries into their cars. He chats with shoppers about his love for the White Sox, that also caught my attention there, and Blackhawks, and now he will never become a Cub fan despite all the team's fame. You got to appreciate the man's conviction. So, whereas John Leroy began his career at an Omni store, and within 1 year he was named Employer of the Year for all the Dominics and Omni stores. While he received an award, the highlight was sitting next to the founder of the company during the awards ceremony. And whereas John Leroy graduated from Shepherd High School in 1982, After graduation, he attended Sertoma Job Training Center in Blue Island, where his family moved until his family moved to Skokie. He then attended Shore Training Center until 1990. In addition to taking care of the customers at the Homer Glen Jewel, he also serves as a full-time caregiver for his father. His father's here tonight. Whereas, just as John Leroy has remained a loyal White Sox fan, he is loyal to Jewel. He is a great asset to the store and helps out in any way he is asked. Therefore, be it resolved by the Illinois House of Representatives of the 100th General Assembly of the State of Illinois that we recognize John Leroy for his dedication to the Homer Glen Jewel Store and to its customers. And we wish him the best as he continues to provide excellent customer service. And be it further resolved that a suitable copy of this resolution be presented to John Leroy as an expression of our esteem and respect, adopted by the House of Representatives February 27, 2018. So John, I am here to present with you a suitable copy of the resolution. So if you could come up here, please. Is there somebody else who, George, you want to?
John, this is from the Village of Homer Glen for your outstanding work ethic, kindness, helpfulness to the residents of Homer Glen and everyone that comes in town, and for always going above and beyond. So we thank you from Homer Glen too very much. This is also made up for this way you remember what was in the paper. You put it up for yourself, because this is all about you. Here you go, John.
I want to thank everyone for all the donations he gave to me at the Jewel Hospital, so I want to thank you. I want to thank you again. Thank you. T-shirt to wear it in good health. Thank you.
Secretary and driver lately, and I want to thank everyone on behalf of my brother. And this is the shirt that we brought from committee members. This is made by my son's company, A&R Screening, out of Crestwood, Illinois, and I have to obviously advertise that he donated the shirts for all of the folks that donated to his campaign. And we brought you some shirts for the committee members here. Thank you, Alina, for letting me know those sizes, I think. And if you need some more, let me know. But it says, the hardest working man in Homer Glen. And on the back, I think it's great. I am a Packer fan. I love your colors in Homer Glen. The measure of who we are is what we do with what we have. Vince Lombardi. So thank you all.
Thank you.
We'll just leave these over here.
Thank you. Thanks again, John. We'll see you. Again, the hardest working man in Homer. Okay, second one, we have a lot of names come out on this one. This is honoring the Homer Junior High Wrestling Team state champions. Good job. We want to congratulate the Homer Junior High School wrestling team in winning the state title in the Illinois Elementary Association's wrestling competition. The Homer Junior High team finished first out of the 116 teams that competed. 2 of the players broke state records. Makes it easier. Drew Blackburn, Forrest, competed. Two of the players broke state records. Drew Blackforest broke the individual record in the final at 167 pounds for having the quickest pin of 22 seconds. The previous record was 34 seconds, set in 1993 by Keegan Robertson at 112 pounds, who broke the individual record for most points scored in the final, winning 17-0. The previous record was 15 back in 1991. First, we would like to recognize Coach David Rush for leading the team through the season and in the state championship event. Coach Rush, please come up. And now we will recognize the entire team for outstanding performance. The coach will read each wrestler's name, and we have certificates for each team member. After receiving your certificate, please line up along the side so we can do a group photo. I ask the audience to hold their chairs and applause until all the team members have been up here. So with that,
You want to give it a go?
yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.
Boys, if I screw up some of the names, it's not intentional. And I put my glasses on so this way I can read them much better. First one is Alvaro Alvarez. I'm going to get this first. Thank you. Next would be Jade Elwani. Congratulations. Next, Drew Blackburn Forst. Thank you. Congratulations. Next will be Tommy Drobuller. Thanks. Congratulations. Matt Giorgetti. Congratulations, Matt. Michael Holland. Big one. Next one is Logan Kaminsky. Congratulations. Polly Cadlick. Mo Khalil. Max Nezovich. Peter Katonis. Feed you growing up. Congratulations. Ben Markham. Congratulations, Ben. You're welcome. Tommy Mula. Brian Parker. Paul Rasp. Keegan Robertson. Congratulations. Peyton Robertson. Cody Silzer. And the last one is for Coach David Rush.
Can we get the sketch one?
Hey, sure, guys, in front of you. Take it easy. Yeah, back, take it easy.
Oh, take it easy, take it easy. Scoot in,
Squeeze in. Stand up tall. Come on in. You guys might want to sneak in there.
Wait, somebody's hiding in the back.
Come on.
Wait, can you come up and like go actually? Come on.
That's good. There you go.
And again, thank you to the state wrestling champs.
I thought the budget workshop was going to be the same. Yeah, hold on. Government mentions.
Okay, we'll continue on with the meeting. I need a motion to approve the minutes of March 14, 2018. That's a move. Trustee Caprio. Second. Trustee Gray. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Reports and communications from the mayor and other officers. I'll go first. I am proud to announce that the village of Homer Glen was named the 2017 Tree City USA by the Arbor Foundation.
Repeat that, Reggie.
Okay. We're going to step back. We're going to go to accounts payable. Is there a motion to approve the accounts payable for the period of March 1st, 2018 through March 29th, 2018?
So moved.
Trustee Burrian,
I'll second.
Trustee Street, discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're back to reports. I'm proud to announce the Village of Homer Glen was named the 2017 Tree City USA by the Arbor Day Foundation in honor of its commitment to effective urban forest management. Homer Glen achieved Tree City USA recognition by meeting the program's 4 requirements: a tree board or department, a tree care ordinance, an annual community forestry budget of at least $2 per capita, and an Arbor Day observance and proclamation. This is the 9th year in a row that our village has received this award. We have Next, I'm pleased to announce that the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Finance Reporting has been awarded to the Village of Homer Glen by Governmental Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada, GFOA, for its comprehensive annual financial report. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. This marks the village's 16th straight CAFR award. Thank you to Finance Director John Sawyers and Accounts Clerk Gina Spino for their efforts in achieving this award once again. This award is an exceptionally important sign of the Village of Homer Glen's ongoing commitment to financial integrity. Seasonal maintenance worker position. The Village of Homer Glen is seeking to fill 2 seasonal maintenance worker positions. Interested candidates must complete the job application found on the village's website at www.homerglenil.org. We will be accepting applications until the positions are filled. With that, we'll go to the trustees. We'll start out with Trustee Cabrio.
No report this evening, Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee Cabrio. Trustee Suisse.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting for the Environment Committee. In honor of Arbor Day, which is April 28th, the Homer Glen Environment Committee is looking for the biggest trees in the village of Homer Glen. Nominations for various tree types are encouraged to be submitted. Verification of measurement will be made by the Environment Committee. Each nomination for the largest tree of each species, such as maple, oak, pine, etc., will receive recognition. Residents and stakeholders are encouraged to search in parks and private property with permission of the property owner in the village of Homer Glen. Applications will be available on the village website this week and at Village Hall. Forms are also available at the sign-in desk. The deadline for submission is May 31st for this contest, and for more information, call 708-301-0632. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Suisse. Trustee Rogers.
Reporting on behalf of the Public Safety Committee, the New Lenox Fire Department services a small portion of Homer Glen for us, a very small portion, and it came out today in the news that they will be closing Station 2 on Cedar Road. I have not had the opportunity to reach out to Chief Turner yet to discuss if or how this could potentially impact the area that's serviced for Homer Glen, but I plan to do that tomorrow. And then invite him to our May public safety meeting to address any concerns that residents may have. Again, it's a very, very small portion of Homer, the very south portion. And so I don't want to speak out of turn until I talk to him. I know there's another fire station on Schoolhouse Road, which could potentially be the station that they use to service this. But I'll have a discussion with him tomorrow and then report back.
Thank you very much. Trustee Rogers. Trustee Durian.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee. Trustee Gray.
Mayor, I have no report, but I would like to say thank you to John Fleming, who's in the audience tonight. He is the one who brought to the attention of the village John Roy. We got him the recognition that he deserves. So thanks, John.
Thanks, John. Good deed. Okay, we'll go to the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I have the Treasurer's Report of Cash and Investments in February 28, 2018. It's the 10th month of the fiscal year 18. It shows the general fund with a cash and investment balance of $5,561,574.91. The special event fund had a balance of $51,523.32. The environmental fund had a balance of $83,189.55. The motor fuel tax fund had a balance of $2,436,405.53. Park and Recreation Fund had a balance of $3,453,701.48. The Debt Service Fund had a balance of $2,216,052.48. The Capital Project Fund had a balance of $1,027,511.02. And the EAB Tree Replacement Fund had a balance of $354,792.39. The last fund, the Capital Project Bond Fund, had a balance of $14,189,000. $162,448.65 for a grand total, all funds, $29,347,199.33. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, John, and thank you for the achievement again.
Thank you for the
Wonderful.
acknowledgement. It's nice to hear. We'll keep doing it. That particular award pays off. It helps with underwriting. It's another seal of approval, so it's worth it.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Village clerk is not here. Jeannie, you want to say something?
No report, sir.
Village attorney,
I have no report tonight, Mr. Mayor.
public safety,
No report tonight.
village manager.
No report.
It's gonna go quick. Public comments,
None have signed in.
real quick. Legislative and action items. Number one, appointment of Chris Pausick for the Community and Economic Development Committee. Is there a motion to appoint Chris Pausick to the Community and Economic Development Committee?
So moved.
Trustee Bergen,
Second.
trustee Gray. Any discussion?
Well, Mayor, I just want to say, I cannot support putting more real estate people on this group. My concern is with a possible conflict of interest is a third of the group is going to be involved in real estate. Unless someone else has a
The
comment on
item is in
that.
front of us right now. He's not a realtor.
Well, it says he was involved with real estate and sales in his attached letter here.
At some point, yeah, he's not a current realtor.
Okay.
And I would say besides that, I would strongly disagree that, I would say that both Chris and the next agenda item might have been unofficially sitting in with CED over the last couple months. I think the input's been invaluable, and I think specifically from the realtor community, the realtors that we do have on the committee, I think their input's been invaluable, especially with some of the projects that we're currently talking about. So from my perspective, I just disagree with that. And as I said, their background and the input that the mayor and I think, share on this has been invaluable to us. And I don't understand the conflict of interest. They're public meetings. So they're not privy to any special information that no one else is privy to. So maybe you can answer the conflict of interest concern?
Well, no, it's in my opinion, because, okay, if you say this first person is not a realtor, even though it says he has real estate and sales, et cetera. Okay.
Experience, yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
okay. No, but I'm just saying
It's an
that,
economic development committee. I think that makes him
right,
qualified.
but, well, to a point, yes.
Okay?
Well, my concern is that, okay, what does realtors do? They would push for higher density housing, so they have more of a commission. You know, that was my concern, that would be a conflict of what, you know, are you doing the best for yourself? Are you doing the best for the village? That's why I'm throwing it out there.
Okay, well, I would say with all due respect, these are two people that are residents of this town that I think should be thanked for stepping forward to be involved and volunteer on committees. And because someone has real estate experience, how that would disqualify them or conflict of interest, I just think that would be like saying that on the environment committee, if someone is an arborist, they want to save trees, so no, that would be a conflict because I just find that to be not only a non-issue, I find it somewhat offensive that we're talking about a community and economic development committee, and we're talking about people with backgrounds in that, and we're using that as a conflict of interest, or that somehow that should disqualify them from stepping up to volunteer their services to this town.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't want to be offensive, I'm just throwing opinions out there.
Okay.
Okay. No, I appreciate your input.
I think I would add to that also that, piggybacking on what Brian said, you know, we've on occasion had to reach out to some of the local real estate people to get their feedback and opinions on things. because they have the pulse of the needs and the wants of the community. And so I think it's been great, and of course, I'm a little biased since I was in real estate for 15 years, so.
Well, I've been in real estate. I think there are a lot of help. Everything that we've not had the answer for, we were able to get the answer from. It's not going to sway us. It is going to educate us on what should and should not be done.
And ultimately, we make the decisions.
Correct? We do.
Real estate agents talk to a lot of people outside of our borders, looking to either come in or that are aware of our village, so they hear a lot of things that we're not going to hear in our normal circles in town or in the stores or whatnot. They're seeing people who may never even come into our town, but just take a phone call and they hear, things good, bad, and indifferent, so they can bring those to our attention.
And with them living here, they're going to tell them the streets. So it's something that, I understand where you're going with it, but like Trustee Berrien said, there is no conflict of interest. They do live here, and they are a wealth of knowledge for us. So, and at the end of the day, we do work for it.
And just let me follow up on for a minute on what I maybe take as the offensive part, is you have two people that are, Chris that's in front of us now is a lifelong resident of this town. To think that this is what he's stepping up to be involved because he's not even a realtor, but he's got some unfair advantage or he's got some agenda. I would argue that it's about his family, his growing family, and wanting to have a say in the future of this town, not some sort of density agenda he has. And I would say the same thing for Mike Rodell. I think everyone we have on this committee are community first. And maybe being overly sensitive to this, but we've had this CED committee in effect for almost 2 years. I've never witnessed someone bring an agenda to that room. And so if I did, I'd have concerns about that too. So I would just simply say, if you're uncomfortable, I would strongly encourage you to vote no.
No, I appreciate your input. It makes me feel more comfortable. Thank you.
Are there any more questions or discussion? Then, please call the roll.
Trustee Gray.
Aye.
Trustee Caprio.
Aye.
Trustee Rogers.
Aye.
Trustee Suisse.
Aye.
Trustee Berrien.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next is appointment of Mike Rodell to the Community and Economic Development Committee. So is there a motion to appoint Mike Rodell to the Community and Economic Development Committee? So moved. Trustee Gabriel.
A second.
Trustee Rogers. Discussion. One thing I can say is I've known Mike a long time. And like I had said before, anytime I had a question on real estate, he always took the time to give an answer to me. He could also set out the points that, whether it be us or another town in the area, where they sit with the developers and how they feel about Glen. And that's something I think is real important, that we want them to know that they're welcome here, and we're actually a great place to put something up, put a business, put a house up, whatever the case may be. And they're straight up with us, and again, he's lived in a village now at least 11 years, maybe even more, 12. So and these are people stepping up, and the one thing that I know with Mike too, because unfortunately he's a lot like me, he's always working. So for him to give up time, and he still has 2 little kids at home, they're all minor, they're almost grown up. So I'm very thankful that he did step up to this, because he will be a lot of help to the village, and the same thing with Chris. So other than that, any other questions or discussion? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Gray.
Aye.
Trustee Caprio.
Aye.
Trustee Rogers.
Aye.
Trustee Suisse.
Aye.
Trustee Berrien.
Aye.
Your motion carries. Next, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 18-013, an ordinance granting, 1, a special use permit for major changes to a planned unit development, number 220-903C1, compliance and amendments of Chapter 220 zoning of the Code of Village of Homer Glen. And we run these both at the same, or we run these separate? There's two motions before us. We do it all on
You
this.
could do it all in one if there's some discussion or concern by any of the board members, Mayor, that we could do it separate, we could separate it.
Thanks, George. Special use 2, special use permit for outdoor seating associated with permitted restaurant. Attachment 2, table 2A, permitted and special use for non-residential districts of Chapter 220 zoning of the village, of the Code of the Village of Homer Glen, for the Farmers Crossing Planned Unit Development located at 14741 through 14901 South Farmers Crossing, Homer Glen, Illinois. J.D. Farmers Crossing, LLC, case number HG1808S.
So move.
Trustee Caprio,
I'll second.
Trustee Suisse, discussion.
Can you give us, Assistant Planner, can you give us a little description of?
What's going on? Sure.
Well, because they were saying they're going to wrap that around
Yeah.
one corner.
So if you look at the picture on the screen there, you'll see the northern portion of the primary structure that's on Lot 2 right now. That includes Pelican Harry's as it is. And then you'll see that dark portion of the pavement just north of there wrapping around the corner. That is the expansion of the patio.
But
On the
there is-
lower half, right?
Yes.
There's a
yeah.
road, is there a road there?
So as of now, there is a drive there.
Right.
So what they're doing is they're adding a row of parking to the northern portion and then expanding the pavement of the drive northward into Lot 1B. And that's to clean up the property. Right now they have like unofficial parking happening there, and so they want to pave that over, give them true parking just south of it, and then expand the patio around as well for Pelican Harry's.
Do they own that other lot?
They do,
The
yes.
whole lot?
Mhm.
Okay.
They own 1A, 1B, 2, 3, and 4, which are to the south.
It's the seating.
Who they, founders or
JD Founders Crossing.
not Pelican Harris?
Not Pelican Harry, sorry, yes. That's correct.
So I'm J.D. Connors Crossing. We don't own it yet. We're under contract to purchase that property, and part of one of the conditions of our closing is to expand this parking like this. So,
Are you talking about the property between the bank and Delaware?
yes, that's correct.
I just like to add that I think it's great that this is the second meeting in a row that I've been to where current commercial uses in the town are reinvesting and, redeveloping and growing. So I think it's a good sign. And kudos to planning. I think the process now is a lot easier for them. According to Development Grimes, they had no issues. I haven't really heard of any issues. So I think it's a positive thing when we see the commercial developments putting more money in, expanding and growing and redeveloping, and I appreciate them for that.
I guess I have one question for you. Is that the only thing holding up the closing?
Yeah,
Okay, because that would clean that area up very well.
correct.
And it definitely needs more parking over there. I mean, those residents those tenants are rocking it out over there, so they're doing great business, and Pelican Harry's is a great place. And it could use more parking for sure.
I piggyback on what Trustee Ryan just said. I'm happy to see Pelican Harris is getting an opportunity to grow too. Same thing with Davidson's. Seems like all of us are doing very well in town, and it's nice to see it stay here and grow. So, any other discussion?
No, it's a nice spot to have expanded outdoor seating too, because we don't have too many in the village like that.
No, and luckily they got the opportunity to get the extra room to be able to do this, and like you said, clean up the parking lot. It'll make it a lot easier for so many people walking the block to get to the restaurant. So, with that, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Gray.
Aye.
Trustee Caprio.
Aye.
Trustee Rogers.
Aye.
Trustee Suisse.
Aye.
Trustee Burning.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next is a workshop item, a presentation by Finance Director John Sawyers of the proposed budget for fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2018, and ending April 30th, 2019. John, it's all yours.
Well, thank you. This document was presented briefly at A&F a couple weeks back. There have been some changes that have made to it. I gave you a list of some of the changes. Primarily, we received some per capita factors, revenue projections from IML that we updated and used on this latest draft. We ran a legal notice in the paper a couple weeks back stating that this was available for inspection at the village from since March 22nd. And so tonight I was going to present this, and the timeline would be, if there's some changes to be made, we'll make it. We'll come back the next board meeting in April, the first meeting in April, we'll do a public hearing, and then look to adopt the budget at the second meeting in April. So the budget for fiscal 19, where am I? Our letter we basically brought forward, it just states that the general fund, our working budget, which is defined as the general fund, has a projected revenue of 8.9 million versus 8.9 million of expenses. It's a balanced budget. The surplus that's currently in the budget is about $10,000 approximately. It is based on trended information from the past 4 or 5 years, and also some outside factors like the Illinois Municipal League. And I will go forward with it. We have the same 9 existing funds that we've had in the past. I presented them in the Treasurer's report. And the grand total of the revenues are $13,788,595 versus $29.7 million in expenses. Of course, most of that is capital outlay. The 9 budgeted revenue, the 9 budgeted funds, total revenue is $13.8 million. 64% of that is in the general fund. And debt service is really home rule sales tax, which is kind of a quasi-general fund. It's obligated for debt service, but so really it's kind of a secondary general fund. Park and Recs has 6%, MFT is 5%, and the remaining funds total 6%. The expenses for all 9 funds total 29.8 million, and 30% of that total is the general fund. As I mentioned earlier, we're proposing a lot of capital outlay spend from the bond money. That represents 39% of the total. We'll also have some money in the Park and Rec Fund to finish up Phase 1 and also fund Phase 2 in the Park and Rec. And debt service is approximately $2 million of debt payment for the next few years until the 2012 bonds are paid off. That represents 7% of the total total budgeted expenditures. So the general fund we're expecting the year to begin with 4.6 million on May 1st. In April, I'll bring forward a request to transfer the lesser of 600,000 or the fund surplus in the general fund. I'm proposing that we transfer the surplus to the Park and Recreation Fund. At the A&F, that number was 500,000. We're anticipating that number to be about 600,000. So rather than let it sit in the general fund, we're already at our maximum fund balance requirement. We would like to propose to transfer that equity, that surplus, into the Park and Recreation Fund. We did that last year. We've done that several times in the past 4 or 5 years. So that's good. That's an increase from the earlier draft. Budgeted revenues in the general fund are 8.9 million with the corresponding expenses. So we'll finish the year with approximately the same amount of cash and investments. Our fund policy says that we want to retain 6 months worth of budgeted expenses on hand. So as you can see there, 8.8 million or 8.9 million says that our maximum fund balance should be $4.5 million. We're over that. So I feel confident that we should be transferring these equities, the surpluses that we have. So the general fund, we rely on sales tax here. That represents 38.5% of total general fund revenues. Home rule sales tax is 2.6 million. It's earmarked off to the side, but it even accentuates how much we rely on sales tax here. State income taxes per capita, it's not been doing as well as we would like, but it comes from, it's a projection from the Illinois Municipal League. Use tax is up in previous years. Our permitting has been very good. And cable is fairly stable, no big increases there. We have seen an increase in gaming tax. It's at $158,000. As I mentioned, we rely on sales tax. It's 39% of the total. The road and bridge levy that the township assesses, that the village collects, and then returns to the township to maintenance the roads represents 15% of the general fund budget. State income tax is 24%. This is just a chart of our sales tax. It's, fortunately, we're seeing it going up, which is terrific. The sales tax projection in this particular budget has a 2.25% growth factor, which I think is fairly conservative. The trend has been at least that. So we're hopeful that's spot on. Income tax, the opposite. Wish it was better, but fortunately sales tax is making up for the difference, and so are some of the other items like gaming tax and use tax. It's a reality. It's based on population. It's dispersed by the state based on the community's population, so we have no control over that. It is being funded currently. We're not in arrears on it. That's the good news. The major expenses in the general fund predominantly are the sheriff's contract. We saw a very slight increase in the sheriff's contract. I think it was 1.4%. We thought it was going to be a break-even, no increase, but the 911 dispatch cost has gone up, and we are charged based on a per-call basis. So we have the staffing costs went down, but the dispatch costs went up. And then personnel and benefits make up the second largest category, 1.8 million. The public works, which is the road and bridge levy, is the third largest. The fourth largest, which jumped a notch from last year, is the sales tax incentives. That's good news. That means they're generating more sales tax. And then the rest are fairly constant from the previous year. So 45% of our general fund budget is the public safety amount, 15% is the street contract, the road and bridge, and then 40% is the remainder. The initiatives in the general fund are the sheriff's contract with a minor increase of 1.17%. We budgeted $85,000 for the underground utility location services. That's fairly new. We picked that up a couple of years ago from the township. We have budgeted close to $58,000 for mosquito abatement for 5 applications. That's one more than we did last year. Trustee Rogers wanted us to look at the cost of tick applications, and it really seems kind of regressive. It's $500 per 1 acre, and it requires application every 2 to 3 weeks, so it's really expensive. So we currently do not have that in the budget right now. The transfer to we're proposing to budget a transfer to the Park and Recreation Fund. So the first draft had $100,000. It was reduced to $50,000 because of the decline in the income tax projection. But remember, we're increasing the current year transfer from $500,000 to $600,000. So at the end of next year, the Park and Recreation Fund will have received $650,000 of equity transfers instead of $600,000. So it actually is going up from the first draft. We have a place setter for just some televisions in the boardroom, and then we budgeted $19,500 for a new vehicle in the building department to replace an old clunker. This budget shows this. Well, it is. It's getting old and expensive. Says our maintenance guy over there. This is the second year for the planning and zoning department. It's been departmentalized. I just thought I would note and then we're going to continue the economic development promotional efforts. continue to commit to the professional development and merit pay increases. And once again, we budgeted for $200,000 of contingency in the general fund. Special event fund is we start the year with $48,000. The budgeted revenues are the festival event, and we're back to the 25% revenue sharing with the township administration and the township road and bridge district. The expenses are the community festival. We have assigned costs for staff liaison. We've put a place setter in there for a part-time events coordinator. We have increased the community events and activity line item as a place setter for just expanded or new activities. That was $2,000 last year. It's increased to $10,000 this year. And then we have the budget for the revenue sharing, which brings a total of $181,745 in the special event fund. So, as I mentioned, the one thing, we did increase the special events activity line item, and we did that because the Homer Harvest Day has been deferred. There was no event scheduled for that in 2018. The environmental fund begins the year with $58,389. Its revenue is the surcharge on the refuse bills. The special event, the EDAT, Environmental Day, the Earth Day, Arbor Day event has been deferred and will not be held in 2018. The expenditures on there are staff. We have some staff liaison assignment. These are pretty much brought forward from the previous year. There's not much change here. The total on this particular fund expenditure is $56,990. If you have any questions, just please stop me, okay? Be happy to answer any of your questions. We did budget $6,000 for an arborist, maintenance of the 151st Street and Bell Road. Basically, recurrent. These are just renewed initiatives for the environmental fund. MFT, well-funded MFT, almost $2.5 million we anticipate to start the year with. Revenues are the state motor fuel tax that we get on a per capita basis based on our census, our population. It also is a declining revenue. Cars get more efficient, and we're seeing a decline. It's a moderate decline in that, but still a good number. And then we also get an allotment because we're considered a high-growth community. And then the interest income, because of the sizable balance, is fairly substantial. So the revenues are estimated at about $668,000. The expenses for this are the 151st Street and Cedar to Parker Phase 2 engineering, and also the right-of-way acquisition. These are place setters. These numbers may change on your next draft because we don't have the numbers yet available. We return $183,600 of our motor fuel tax to the highway district for road maintenance. That was part of the original intergovernmental agreement. We have some maintenance for street lights that we picked up a couple of years ago from the road and bridge district, some traffic signal maintenance. We have the balance of the Phase 1 Heritage Park improvements, which is the road out there that you see. So quite a bit to go. The invoicing is, we'll start to see the invoicing come in, and it'll cross over April and May. So I rebudgeted the whole amount just to be safe. We moved the Opticom maintenance to the MFT. It's a qualified maintenance expense. It's really a place setter. I don't anticipate this expense until 159th Street gets built out. It really belongs in the motor fuel tax fund. It's a qualified expense. Plenty of funds in that fund to handle items like that. Park and Recreation Fund. Now this includes the $600,000 of estimated surplus that the general fund could potentially transfer in to the park fund. The revenues, $810,000, are the local motor fuel tax. It also represents the developer park contributions and interest income. The initiatives for the Park and Recreation Fund are the continued local motor fuel tax revenue that we started a couple years back for a total of about $660,000. We have to re-budget the balance of Phase 1 for Heritage Park, which is $626,000. We also put a place setter in there for Phase 2 at Heritage Park, $3.5 million. The budgeted transfer, anticipated surplus budget transfer from the general fund is reduced to $50,000. It was formerly $100,000. We did budget $65,000 for some bike trail maintenance, just 3 or 4 pretty substantial improvement repair projects on the bike trail. We budgeted $45,000 for some engineering, construction and engineering costs on the Goodings Grove Trail extension. $40,000, which is re-budgeted from the previous year for Goodings Grove School Park intergovernmental agreement. We had $30,000 for Phase 1 engineering on Harold's Trail, Culver Park to Heritage Road. We cannot get grant funding on our projects until we complete Phase 1. We did budget $27,000 for a pickup truck and $8,000 for a trailer so that the park maintenance crew can be more efficient and get to more coverage for maintenance. We budgeted $10,000 for a Green Regions grant to assist with the sensory garden at Heritage Park. And then we also re-budgeted for the seasonal employees. We added 2 additional part-timers so that we could cover more. And then this is the second year of the multi-level departments in the park department. So we have a department for development, which is the trails and the park improvements, and also one for maintenance. So we expect $810,000 in revenue. The expenses are $4.7 million, predominantly $4.1 coming from Heritage Park. That service is really the home rule sales tax bond fund. It's going to begin the year with about $2.6 million. We anticipate home rule sales tax at about $2.6 million. The bond and interest payments, annual bond and interest payments are $2 million. So we see a $600,000 surplus from that. It grows and grows until the bond is paid for. So we're now at 2.6 to start the year. We'll finish the year with 3.2. Hopefully, it might give us a funding. It might give us an opportunity to retire the bonds early, possibly, or fund other projects. So it's a nice little nest egg that's earmarked. Can't touch it until either the bonds are paid off or we call early. So as I mentioned, home rule sales tax 2.6, 2.7. The bonds are about $2 million. The last payment is due December 1st of 22. The early call provision would allow the village to pay the bonds off early on December 1st of 19. So it's coming. Capital Project Fund has $1 million in it. It has no designated revenue source other than the investment income from it, which is $12,000. Budgeted expenses of $317,000 for an estimated ending balance of $712,000 approximately. The initiatives in there are we've been, every other year we've been doing $30,000 worth of tornado sirens. So this is the year we're up for some new sirens or repositioning them. We rebudgeted the street light retrofit program. It's $100,000. We carry that forward from the previous year. We also rebudgeted the non-LLC subdivision improvements, $50,000. The letter of credit, that's the balance that we have from the letter of credit we pull on the Cedar Brook subdivision that either has to be spent on that subdivision or returned to the developer. So we set a place setter in there for improvements at that subdivision. We rebudgeted the Farm View lift station inspection and maintenance cost, and also we also rebudgeted the contingency of $50,000. So for a grand total of $317,833. And then ash borer tree replacement fund, that money came from home rule sales tax transfer. It's $355,000. The revenue is actually investment income, and the expenses are the arborist and $100,000 for tree replacement. The bond fund, This is the one that creates the large numbers on our treasurer's report. It has $14 million to start the year. The budgeted revenues are $616,000, and most of that is the 319 grant. The expenses are the 159th Street Improvement Project, which is the road, the sewer line, the water line, and it's a place that we'll never spend all that right now, but it's a place setter for, if everything was to be finished, it's going to cost $7.65 million. So it's a good way of obligating the cash balance in the bond fund. We also have rebudgeted the drainage improvement work, as hasn't been done yet out there for Heritage Park. That's $1.526 million. Stormwater improvement, which is a qualified expense for the bond fund for fiscal 18, for this next year, is $1.364 million. We rebudgeted the amount that is still not completed or hasn't been paid for yet, is $1,050,000. We budgeted the legal services or the professional fees on the joint agency water transmission line acquisition. And then we put in $50,000 for a master sewer plan. It's a place setter. And then we also budgeted the dues for the Hickory Creek watershed, $10,000. Grand total is $11,752,000. I actually discussed all these already, so at the end of this particular draft, it would show our operating fund with a surplus of $10,288, which is key. We'll still be over our maximum fund balance. The total budgeted revenues are $13.9 million, with the expenses of $29.8 million. So at the end of the fiscal year, on April 30th, 19, we would anticipate cash and investments of $13.4 million. Any questions? And if you don't have any now, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have later. I didn't give you the full-blown line-by-line item, but if you certainly have any questions on it, and this will be available at the Village Hall. If somebody wants to come and pick a copy up, they're more than welcome to do it.
I have quite a few, but I think
Okay.
it's something, well, I think it's something that probably I just need clarification on, so I'll probably just come by and see you.
Okay.
And make sure I'm reading what I'm reading correctly.
Okay.
John, do we have $14,000 for an arborist, $6,000 out of the environment, and $8,000?
Yes.
Is that the same arborist, or is there a different one for the EAB versus environment?
It's the same. So one half, I think it's 8,000 we've got in
We have
tree
8,000 in
replacement.
EAB, right?
Yeah, for tree replacement program, so
Why do we need an arborist to tell us about dead trees?
we sometimes have an arborist in case people say when a tree is dying, we send an arborist out there to verify. We use the person for tree replacement. So he goes out and views the site, goes out and inspects the trees when they go in, that kind of thing. And then the other 6,000 is for plan review for our tree preservation. So if there's individual sites and we need a technical person to review a tree preservation plan, that's what that costs. So
It
that's
seems like a lot to me, given that we only have $10,800 for a parks program, whatever we're called, part-time events coordinator, $10,800. But in two different places, we have a total of $14,000 for an arborist. And I know we've talked about the part-time events coordinator, where we might be able to scour up some money over. I mean, who would do anything of any substance for 10-8? And we don't have anything in the special event fund. I mean, it's going to come down to a $7,000 balance at the end. You know, when we talk about sweeping funds, $600,000 into the parks, which Parks has a dedicated revenue stream from the gas tax. And I'd like for consideration just to start thinking about it. Maybe we start to sweep money into other places too. You know, I mean, there's always been a sweep to just like two main places, and while Parks is certainly important, we are paying attention to those, and the gas tax is certainly to fund that. And I know it can't keep pace with it, but we can't. You know, we need to give some money to other things.
We did. The capital improvement fund, it has $1 million. That's all sweep. That has no designated revenue stream either. But yeah, we could certainly allocate it to however you want. I don't think it's wise to let it sit in the general fund and let that general fund balance grow greater than it needs to be. It'd be better served elsewhere. So certainly,
Yeah, I know, and I'm sure I sound like a broken record, but one of my pet peeves is we would say, well, it's just in the budget. It's just, it's in there. It doesn't mean we have to use it. And so, but then somehow we always end up saying, well, it's in the budget, so let's use it. And so then if it's just sitting in there, to what Keith and some of the other trustees that we talked about, why don't we put it somewhere where we're actually gonna use it? I mean, $8,000 for an arborist, that's
well,
14,000.
the arborist is paid on a for service basis.
Mhm.
So if they don't do their studies, they don't get paid. It's not a retainer. They get paid $100 for an assessment.
Yeah,
So
I just like to see that money move somewhere else. I mean, I didn't really know we were gonna dive into specific questions tonight. Is that what the intent is?
go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just trying to figure out the whole 151st Street. Is that $8,000 for that corner? Or is it 4,000 and then 4,000 for something
For the
else? Yeah, it's on page 38.
And the environment fund?
Major initiatives.
Is that I know the 4190, I believe.
And then it says-
For that area, is that the Dragonfly area? I don't even know where
I don't
it's at, to be honest.
I got-
Sarah, could you tell me?
151st is the Prairie Garden.
Is that where the Dragonfly
No,
rehab area is?
That's kitty corner from the previous.
right, it's kitty corner from.
Right, that's the first one.
Because we
4190.
had Marcy Heisek she was landscaping, she was doing all the plantings and everything like that. So that was just she hasn't done anything lately, of course, but that was put in there to keep that corner looking nice. The Dragonfly area,
Because that's another 4,000. I don't physically know where
I
that
thought it
space
was
is
one in
in
the
the
same.
village.
What is the Dragonfly?
it moves, and now it's over on Gauger, so we didn't, because we had a couple of different places. So we just had that, I think it was just a carryover. We haven't used it lately.
What
For the
is
maintenance.
Like, what do you do? I mean, it's a moving garden?
No, it used to be off of Gauger there, and it used to be, I'll have to check with Margaret, because she's the one that worked on it.
Mhm.
So
So that's probably something
that
else
could be
that's going
questionable,
on.
right, it could be
yeah.
questionable, and we can move that about.
I was thinking they were one in the same as well.
I had the same questions, and I think it sounds like we're identifying some dollars that could be put towards an event planner. So, conversations over the course of the next several weeks, I think, can take place on that. Yeah, the event planner was one for me. I know we talked about this at committee of the whole, but I agree with Trustee Gray. I don't know, a part-time, I look at that position as something with experience, not just someone that, part-time, and maybe I'm wrong, but I just think $11,000 for what we're talking about bringing online and what's going to be required, that's something that I need to be convinced that we can do that for $11,000. I'm not there yet.
I think that debate all depends on what the board decides to do for events. If it's something, this is meant to be very minor
Sure.
type of
Yeah.
planning. If it truly gets into programming and things of that nature, completely different story.
Sure. Just one of those things that, again, it's a placeholder, right? That, I don't know, I'm happy to force those discussions as soon as we can to, again, I'm just, maybe, I'm not saying no, I'm saying I'm just not convinced on that yet.
But Trustee Varian, some of the major events that we had scheduled for 2018 is not taking place. So having somebody part-time, I can see how that fits in.
Sure.
In the future,
Yeah.
sure, when we start picking up more things, but I don't see why that would be an issue now.
Yeah, I think, you know, my thought, my vision on this is there's gonna be things that are going to take, the planning of this is not a 2-month planning of some of these events. It's going to be year out planning for some of these events that I'm envisioning specifically as we bring this on. So again, I'm not saying no, I'm saying I'm not convinced on it yet. It's conversations over the next couple of weeks. I know this is just a, you know, draft. Where maybe I disagree with Trustee Gray is, you know, if we look at Parks and Rec, and I know we are funding Parks and Rec to a tune that certainly is unprecedented in Homer Glen with this project alone. But when we're done with phase 1 and we're done with phase 2, and the millions upon millions that will be spent on those 2 phases, this park's not done, right? And so at the end of this budget year, we're gonna have $159,000 left in this park fund. So I still think it's going to be a priority, and parks are gonna continue to be a priority under the current revenue mechanisms we have. Should they remain what they are, then, you know, I think we've got phase 3 here and a Village Green and the events center of this project that I think, you know, we're not.
That's what I'm saying, is that all of those funds are coming down, including the events fund, which is going to end up with a balance of $7,200.
Yeah.
So even if we were to scour some money out and find money for a part-time youth events coordinator, he or she may be sitting there with no funding from elsewhere. Unfortunately, we're scouring money from multiple funds, and at the end of the day, it could be, well, we can't really touch that because that's in a different fund, and it can't go over this fund. And that's, before we, you know, codify this, I'd like to, you know, that we make sure that we get those monies out of there, or we earmark them elsewhere.
The special event fund and the environment fund are reserved general funds. They will fold up into the general fund.
So as long as it falls under the umbrella of general fund, they can move around? Is that what that means?
What we did is, because they have, you know, they have these events that earn equity, we reserved their fund balance, and it is rolled into the general fund. We report it separately, but on the audit report, it folds into it. So you can't take the general fund surplus and roll it into the special event fund. You know what I mean? Because it gets folded into it, it's the same fund. It just has a reserve in it.
So you can earmark money in there, basically?
Yes, absolutely, sure.
And I know we're talking about small dollars here in the scheme of things, right? So I don't want to spend too much time on what would amount to small dollars. One of the things we talked about in committee of the whole, though, is the TVs. And I think the TVs are a good idea long term. But if we're talking about some of the pressures on the budget that we're talking about, I'd like to, you know, I think that's more of a luxury item at this point than it is a necessity. And this going forward is going to be, we're going to have to prioritize this spending, I think, in a way that we maybe haven't had to do, specifically in our parks. So to me, that's one that is a nice thing to have. It's not a necessity right now. And there are things that we'll prioritize above having, you know, cameras, I should say, in the boardroom.
I recall that was the consensus of the committee of the whole, that was just something that we weren't wanting to put in. The
So
30,000.
would you be okay if I took it out of this next draft? Would that be okay?
That's my
I
feedback.
agree with that.
So again, we'll have time to go through this, and like I said, I have a million little itty bitty notes that, you know, silly to bring about. So the next meeting, if at that point, let's say the 30,000 is still in there, that's when we're gonna talk about this, right?
Well, we're gonna have a public hearing.
Right, right, so that's why I just want to be sure.
Open it back up again and talk about it, for sure, yes. I'll try to get you this, you know, try to get with me so that I can fine tune this next draft. Email me or give me a call and give me your thoughts on and ideas on the next draft, okay?
Yeah, and I would just say, for my part, please don't let I mean, we're talking about the minor dollars here, right?
Sure.
I think this is a strong budget. I think it continues to be a strong budget. And John, I think you're doing a really good job with staff here. So please don't let a couple small items and you know, I like to come and sit.
No, this is our opportunity to
Exactly.
fix the big and the small, so
Exactly.
it's all
So, I mean, I
equal.
think it's still a village with a strong balance sheet, making investments in priorities that residents care about, and maximizing dollars to an extent that I don't think other municipalities do. So please, you know, take it in the spirit of it.
Anything else? Is there any old business? Is there any new business? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Please adjourn.